Oh, did you just start it, Mel? Okay, cool. There you
Yeah.
go. All right, we're on. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is talk about the due date, 'cause I know there were already some confusion in the chat earlier. So what I'm going to do is go to Moodle to show you where to find your dates for all the assessments. So we've come into Moodle and we're going to the Unit Guide tab up the top. This one I'm already in. And so you'll see here these two documents, Assessment Overview for full-time and Assessment Overview for part-time. So these documents are going to contain all your due dates for the assessments for the year. So I'm going to click into full-time, but it'll say it in both. I'm going to scroll down and find for theories and therapies, which is here. And so you can see here, assessment task 2, which is the case studies, is due on the 4th of the 9th. So the 4th of September. So hopefully that's clear. You can jot that down in your diary or jump into Moodle, save this on your desktop, print it off if you need to. But whenever you're unsure about a date, just make sure you come into Moodle, you can click the Unit Guides tab and it's all there for you. All right, and so now we'll get stuck into the assessment. So I'm going to go to the Theories and Therapies tab, go straight to my assessments, and I'm going to click on Assessment Task 2, the case studies. I know previously that was maybe hidden from some people. I changed the settings, so hopefully that should be available for you now to click on. Can anyone just double check, just confirm for me that that's there? Linda, you're nodding? Come. Awesome. Lovely, Fred. Organisation. Well done. Tasha, you got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, is there an assessment task 1 that's due 23rd of this month? I thought I saw there.
For theories and therapies?
Yes, I believe.
Assessment task 1 was the presentation.
Yep, but I thought I saw something right under when you're doing the assessment task 2 for this subject that said the 23rd of June. Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. Already done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've clicked into the assessment task, and as you know, the Word document of the task is there, that link. So you click on, and it downloads to your computer.
Carly, some people are saying it's still restricted for them. Do you know what process they should follow?
Yeah, Kelly. Kelly, are you, Danielle, are you full-time or part-time? Part-time.
I'm full-time, but I just logged out of Moodle. I'm logging in again, so see if it's
Yeah, try that. If you've been logged in all day,
yeah.
try logging out, logging back in, or refreshing, because I changed it during the lecture. So Danielle, try that as well and see if it works for you. Susan, so where do you find all the assessments? So do you mean all the assessment dates?
That worked for me, Carly.
Awesome. Good work, Kel. So I think if it's still restricted for you, log out, log back in so your Moodle has a chance to refresh. Yep, sorry, Susan. Are you referring to all the assessment dates?
Yeah, I am. Just because I didn't realise it was different for part-time and full-time. So I think I've got the wrong one.
The dates are the same, but full-time students have different subjects they do on a Monday. So all the subjects that you do the same on the Tuesday and Thursday, the dates are the same. It's just full-time have the additional subjects.
So you go into Moodle Unit Guides, is that right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, all right.
And then it's the first 2 documents you can see there, assessment overview.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
It's all right. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down because you've seen all this jazz before. Similar situation. So the question is written for you. You write your response. I can see here very clearly the word count is 150 to 200 words per question. So each question requires you to answer with 150 to 200 words. You must use a total of 7 references for the whole assessment task. So 7 for the whole assessment task. And it's really important, come back to this. We have been marking a few assessments where the word count has been significantly under, and that's had to be a resubmit for some people. So try and avoid that happening. Make sure that you're sticking to the word count as much as possible, because that indicates how much information is required or the depth that's required for that question. All right, so what it is, it's a series of case studies, and you're going to use a theoretical lens to explore that case study. And so each case study has a different theory that's applied to it that will come through in the questions. So Bainan, if you go over the word count, ideally don't go over the word count. If you do, you might get some feedback telling you you've gone over the word count, and depending on what that looks like, it might be a resubmit if there's too much information or too much superfluous stuff there, or it might just be, this took a long time for the marker to mark, so please stick within the word count. So that's really important as well. It's really important, yes, we want depth of answers, but we want concise answers as well. So figuring out how you hold that balance, I think, is really important. All right, so we have case study for number 1, or part A, sorry, which is Renee. And we're talking here about human lifespan development theory. Renee is 28 years old and is the youngest of 3 female children. She has a full-time job as an administration worker at an accounting firm and has worked there for 5 years. Renee has come to your counselling service to discuss areas of present concern in her life. Renee tells you she's had a very troubled childhood. Her father was an alcoholic and what she now understands to be bipolar disorder, but it was undiagnosed. He was regularly physically violent and very abusive towards Renee, her mother, and other siblings, even though her mother tried to shield them from the abuse as much as possible. Her mother never contemplated leaving her husband and believed he loved her despite the severe mistreatment. He died suddenly of a heart attack, aged 46 years, when Renee was 12 years old. Her mother died 2 years ago, and Renee was distraught as they were very close. She feels depressed and cries when she thinks or talks about her mother. She has been in a relationship with her boyfriend Steve for 3 years now and believes he tried to support her in his own way when her mother died. Renee has been thinking about her violent upbringing in childhood of late and has been upsetting her emotionally. She remains close to her siblings, but they've never talked about their childhood experiences with one another. Although superficially sociable, Renee did not make any close friends throughout her school years, as she was embarrassed to invite them to her home. Since being with her boyfriend, she has stopped attending social events with her friends at work. With most of her friends, I should say, as she has wanted to spend as much time as possible with her boyfriend. They spend their weekends together, but don't have a social network of friends. So you have here some really specific questions to help you address the case study. So explain how Erikson's psychosocial stages of development could assist in your counselling sessions with Renee. And so you might want to look at what happened at significant stages in Renee's life that Erikson would have talked about in his model, and also what stage is she at currently, and how does that impact on her current presenting issue? How would Erikson's psychosocial stages of development limit your counselling practice with Renee? So if you're purely using an approach based around Erikson's psychosocial stages, what are the limitations? So you all talked about limitations in your theories presentations. That's what this question is getting at. And how does that affect the counselling relationship? Discuss the environmental influences that may have contributed to Renee's experience in childhood, adolescence, and adult life. So that beautiful activity that Mel just did in the lecture, that's what you're going to use for this question for Renee. And you're going to go through concretely in childhood and answer all the environmental influences, in adolescence, the environmental influences, and in her adult life, so in her current way of being. and explore those environmental influences. What factors of genetic inheritance and effects of nature are important to consider for Renee? So what do you know about her child, about nature and the impact it's having on Renee? So in terms of her parents, what do we know about them? What could possibly be passed down to Renee from that environment or through genetics? And select one stage of Erikson's psychosocial development and discuss how it assists you to understand one of Renee's presenting issues. So you would have identified a few presenting issues for Renee. So just pick one. So one of the reasons why she might be coming to you for support, and then discuss that using one of the stages of Erikson's psychosocial model. All right, that's the first case study. Before I move on, any questions so far? Okay, cool. All right, we're going to move on to Robbie, which is case study B, and this is using learning theories. Robbie is a 26-year-old gay male sex worker who's been mandated to attend your counselling service because he was charged with having unsafe sex knowing he had hepatitis C. At the first session, Robbie tells you his story. He currently uses heroin and occasionally marijuana and is supplied with free fit packs for safe drug use. The drugs help, he says, to mask the effects of schizophrenia, which began in his late teens, and also helps to relieve his emotional pain. He does have prescribed medication for his psychosis, but does not take it all the time. Robbie tells you he was thinking of getting on a methadone program, but he hasn't followed this up due to a lack of routine and finds it hard to schedule and attend appointments. The sex work has been the main way Robbie's been able to pay for his drug habit, and he can get more money if he uses unsafe sex practices. He has been bringing clients to his bedsit unit, and this has led to complaints from other residents in the block. Whilst telling you this, Robbie appears delusional as he believes he is not putting himself or others at risk by the unsafe sex practices he uses. He also doesn't care what the other residents think. Robbie was placed in foster care by Family and Community Services from the age of 1 until he was 16 and has had no contact with his birth parents. His birth mother had a severe mental illness and had an addiction to heroin, and his father was never identified. Robbie ran away from his last foster carer as he said he was being abused. He had a couple of years in a youth refuge, but since then has been homeless. Working on the street has become risky as he is often harassed and regularly moved on by the police. Last week, he was strip searched by the police and charged with possession and practicing unsafe sex. Robbie tells you he's been thinking about contacting his birth mother and asks for your help to do this. So a bit going on for Robbie. The first question is, how would knowledge of operant and classical conditioning help you to understand Robbie's presenting issue of drug use, homelessness, and unsafe sex? So you probably want to break that question down into operant conditioning and classical conditioning and talk about where those behaviors come from, where did he learn them, and how were they reinforced? So using those principles that we've talked about operant and classical conditioning, and how did they contribute to the behaviors that Robbie is currently presenting with? What aspects of Robbie's presenting issues, drug use, homelessness, and unsafe sex, could you work on in counselling? So you might want to identify one of those issues and talk about what you'd work on with him or what that might look like and why have you chosen that issue. To support Robbie to make changes in his life, apply classical conditioning principles to reduce his drug use. That shouldn't be a question. So here you need to make sure we're just using classical conditioning principles for Robbie to make changes in his drug use. So we want to reduce the drug use. So we're using classical conditioning principles. Choose only one for case study 2, question 2. Yes. Oh, no, sorry. What aspects of Robbie's presenting issues could you work on in counselling? Sorry, that was my misreading of the question. Thanks for clarifying, Dan. No, you might talk about multiple. I apologise. So you might talk about what issues are appropriate to work on in counselling and why. So you could choose more than one. Thanks. So here you're going to look at purely classical conditioning principles. To help Robbie attend his regular methadone clinic appointments, apply 2 operant conditioning principles that will strengthen his behaviour. So really clear differentiating there between classical conditioning for question number 3 and operant conditioning for question number 4. All right, so that's Robbie. Any questions on that case study before I move on to the last one? All right, sounds good. And so case study C is about Gabby, and we're using personality theories. Gabby is a 16-year-old girl from a social housing estate. She lives with her mother and 2 younger brothers in a 2-bedroom unit on the 2nd floor of a 4-story complex. She has presented at your Women's Health Service for a health checkup, and the doctor has referred Gabby to you for counselling and case management. Gabby struggled with literacy and numeracy issues throughout her education, and her 2 younger brothers are experiencing the same learning challenges at school. Gabby left school last year before completing Year 10 to help and support her mother through a rough patch. Gabby's mother has an extensive history of alcohol and drug abuse over a 20-year period and has regularly neglected Gabby and her brother's developmental needs. Gabby herself has a history of unmanaged asthma and last year was hospitalised with a severe asthma attack. She was provided with asthma medications on discharge from hospital, but she only takes them when she's feeling unwell. Gabby's family has fallen behind in paying rent to the housing department and bills, including electricity, internet, and phone. Gabby does not have credit for her mobile phone that her family relies on for communication. Gabby has been sexually active for the past 2 years. So I can hear someone's mic's just turned on. It's a bit distracting. Gabby's been sexually active for the past 2 years and has had a couple of partners in this period. Having had irregular periods, she only recently discovered she is 4 months pregnant. Gabby believes that the father is a 22-year-old neighbour in the same complex. They are no longer together. Gabby cut off contact with her partner because she was afraid he wouldn't want to be a partner, wouldn't want to be a father. When Gabby told her mother about the pregnancy, they had a major disagreement. Gabby wants to keep the baby herself, but her mother feels she is way too young and unable to care for her child. Gabby argues that she's been raising her siblings for most of their lives already. Gabby's mother informs her if she doesn't give up her baby, she would no longer be welcome at home. Gabby has been wanting to find her own place with friends, but she has no money. Drawing on attachment theory, what would you consider to be Gabby's attachment style and why? So what indicators do you have here that leans towards one attachment style over another? Explain how understanding this attachment style would help you to work with Gabby as her counsellor. So what work might you want to do, what strategies would be useful, and how might you want to be in relationship with Gabby in that counselling space? What presenting issues can be identified as major factors impacting on Gabby's life? So again, you're looking at that environmental stuff that we just did. Identify 3 areas of need for change that can be incorporated into a counselling plan for Gabby. Use the SMART planning template to develop these goals, interventions, a timeline, and expected outcome. And you need a minimum of 3 goals. So you're going to put a bit of a counselling plan together for Gabby using 3 goals in this template. And we're going to talk more about SMART goals and counselling next week. So we'll cover that then. Based on Gabby's attachment style, What are some potential barriers you could anticipate when working with Gabby? Discuss 3 strategies that could assist Gabby to overcome these barriers. So you're identifying potential barriers that come about because of that attachment style, and then 3 strategies you could use with Gabby to overcome those barriers. And that's the end of the assessment. You can see the marking criteria there. All right, so it's a big assessment. Like, there's a lot there, but you can see it can be broken down quite simply. So, take it one case study at a time, one question at a time, and you have all the information there to answer those questions. We've gone through it in class, you've covered it in your presentations, and it's available through your own research as well. So I really encourage you not to be too daunted by it and take your time. You've got till September to get it done. And Marie has put in the chat box the referencing skills guide. Beautiful. So we absolutely need to see referencing. We're moving into term 3, so you know that referencing is expected in your assessments. You need to use 7 references. You need to tell us what references they are. So please, you can click on that link. You can save that to your bookmarks, whatever it is, about how to reference. It is also in the newsletter. There is a link there for the referencing style guide. So it will always be there for you to use if you need to brush up on those skills. Sorry, Mel, were you going to say something? No. Dan, get your hand up.
Thanks, Carly. Just a quick question. Outside of SMART goals, will we be learning anything else? You were saying we're moving onto the therapies, so we basically got everything we need to do to start now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd say yes. Tasha?
My computer is just literally, sorry.
We can hear you.
Sorry, my computer's off. I'm having trouble getting into my Moodle. I've been signing in, and now it won't let me sign in with my details. So who do I talk to correct that?
It will be the mental health counselling team inbox.
Okay.
What are you using as your login name?
It was Tasha. My last name.
Yeah.
And it was usually appearing there automatically when I would go through Teams, and now it's not showing up automatically. I have to manually put that in, and then when I put the password in, it just keeps saying invalid sign in over and over and over.
Okay. I've put the email address in the chat box for you.
Thank you.
All right. Apparently you need to update your password if you can figure out how to do that. Thanks, Ming. Yep, APA or Harvard is fine. Danielle?
Hey, Carly.
Hello.
Just a quick one in regards to the learner support, just in hand with this. Is this going to be run on Wednesdays or Fridays in the future? How's that looking for next term?
We're double checking. So Liz is coming back, which is awesome news because Liz is fantastic. So we're just waiting to hear back from her. Is that right, Will? What days suit her?
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but for now, up until the end of term, Carly and I are, swapping learner support on a Wednesday. So I was there yesterday, Wednesday, 12:30 to 2:30, I think, and no one showed up. So we might try for a Friday, but if we start getting no-shows, then we probably won't run it until next term. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
I mean, we're sitting there anyway, so it's no biggie, but yeah, just to clarify that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Friday suits Fiona. All right. Any other questions about the assessment?
Hey, Carly.
Oh, yeah, Mark?
Hi, it's Richard.
Oh, Richard, hey.
I'm just struggling. I'm on Moodle now. I'm just struggling to find out exactly where I've got to navigate here because I missed the beginning of the talk about that.
We're doing theories and therapies task 2. So head to the theories and therapies tab and then scroll down to the assessments and it's task 2. Lisa, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I think mine's still saying it's restricted, and I've logged out and logged back in a couple of times.
Okay. And are you full-time or part-time? Remind me, Lisa.
Full time.
Okay. All right, I'll check on that.
Okay, thanks.
Christy had a question about what would be an example of a barrier.
Yeah, cool. So I think I was just reading through Katie's response to that, and that's beautiful. So a barrier will be something that gets in the way. So what's something that's getting in the way for, is it Gabby? Yeah, or stopping her from, achieving her goals, or it's getting in the way of her well-being potentially. Just trying to find that question. It's about barriers. Yeah, so based on Gabby's attachment style, what are some potential barriers you could anticipate when working with Gabby? So because of that particular attachment style, what might get in the way of that counseling relationship or of her working towards her goals or attending counseling regularly? If there's an avoidant attachment style, I'm not saying that is, I'm just pulling that out of nowhere. What could you anticipate would get in the way of her engaging fully in counseling? Hopefully that makes more sense, Christy. All right.
Also, Carly, Mark has a concern about the word count. He says it seems very short, particularly for questions like going over the 8 stages, and getting that into 150 to 200 words seems too short. I could easily do 400 plus words with her.
Well, yeah, I guess that's an exercise in conciseness, isn't it? And I think being really specific around what the question's asking you. So that's question 1, I think, for Renee in terms of Erikson's psychosocial stages. So you don't need to go into every psychosocial stage. No, it's just the ones that particularly stand out for Renee. And I'm just kind of trying to find the questions. So there's one that talks about, the presenting issues. So pick one stage of Erikson's psychosocial development and discuss how it assists you understand. Renee is who's picking one. And then the top one, explain how Erikson's psychosocial stages of development could assist in your counseling sessions with Renee. So yeah, you don't need to go into every single psychosocial stage. You give a really in-depth overview of what it is. It's really picking apart the pertinent ones that apply to Renee and why that's the case, or how that would help you understand what's happening for Renee. So I think, yeah, being really specific or really intentional in how you answer the questions is important. But I love your enthusiasm for Erikson, Mark. That's awesome to see. And people are asking potentially about holiday breaks. Yes, beautiful, Taylor. We have a calendar for that. Head to the newsletter. It's in there. It's beautiful. It's a picture. It's very clear, easy to read. Read your newsletter. But I'll also say that, yes, so next week is our last week of classes. You then have a non-teaching week, and then it's 2 weeks holidays. Thanks, Fred. Fred's pumping the newsletter too. Get it out there. All right. Any other questions? Someone asked about the schedule for next term. Are we allowed to talk about that yet, Mel, or are we still waiting on some confirmation?
Yeah, no, I think we're all set with teachers. I think we're just waiting on the learner support. What do you specifically want to know? Because they'll probably go up next week.
Yeah, cool. So timetables will be
probably-
published next week.
Probably, or on Friday. I might do them tomorrow.
Cool. But yeah, days and times stay the same. Your subjects, if you're full-time, your subjects on Monday will change.
Mm.
You'll be doing case management and gambling. But other than that, so part-time, your schedule stays the same. And for full-time, your Tuesdays and Thursdays are the same as well.
So no big
I was-
changes really.
I was just curious if there's any new subjects coming up, just curiosity-wise.
There you go. Yep, case management and gambling.
If you're a full-time student. If you're part-time, then no. No, not till
Okay.
next. You don't do any of those units till next year.
Okay, cool.
All right, Carly, should we get stuck into our tutorial space so we can do some of this case study work just to finish off?
Yes.
Student counselling groups.
What did you want to know about them, Susan?
It was just because of my life circumstances, and also every time I've jumped into the student ones to practice, I haven't found people. So because I'm in the last non-teaching week, I'm in that bracket. I'm really trying to get some practice in. So I just thought I'd ask why I've got everyone here. Are people still jumping in there? Am I just getting the times wrong, or is it because they've sort of finished their assessment? Just as I said, when I've got everyone together.
Yeah, maybe put a post in there, Susan, and just say the times you're available. Anyone want to jump on at this time so you can connect with someone that way.
Okay.
But yeah, also
Yep.
really great plug. So people head to the student hangout. If you want to talk about assessments or if you want to do some practicing, there are people who are really keen. So I think
Yeah.
checking in there is a really great idea to try and connect with people.
Yeah, I'll check on the student hangout. Actually, yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks, Carly. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you tag at Dip Counselling, everyone will get notification that there's a message there.
Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, terrific. Thank you.
It's okay. As quickly, because I know we're going to get to tutorials, the newsletter is in Teams in the General tab. Yeah, on Teams, Katie. All right, so we'll leave it there. Head to your tutorial groups, so either with Marie, Mel, or myself, and we'll do an activity that will help you get your head around some of this conceptualization stuff for the assessment.
Great work, Carly.
Cool. All
All
right.
right, see you all in there. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Carly. See you.
No, you don't need to subscribe to the newsletter, Robert. No, it's just there if you want it. Yeah. All right.